The NFC East. Yes, going to be breaking down the NFC East division. If you haven't already, please check out the last two I did, the NFC West, the NFC South. We got East and North in the NFC. Then we'll be done for the NFC. We're going to talk about four teams. All four teams, it's only two props. We're going to talk about them. We're going to start from the bottom up. We're not going to talk about Philly and Cowboys to the last because I'm going to talk a little bit about them a little bit more. But the Washington Commanders, 6.5 is their season win total prop. Them and the Giants, we're just going to say that. Both of them are 6.5. Both of them are plus 1,000. So we're just going to eliminate the odds for that one. We're just going to talk about both of them. I got the Commanders. I got them going under the 6.5. I think a 5-12 season will probably be realistic. You got Dan Quinn coming in, and this is the second time as getting a head coaching job. We saw what he did in Atlanta at the beginning. It was amazing. It was pretty good, and then we know towards the end how that turned out. Now, they do have a couple new promising pieces. You got Jaden Daniels, who I'm not going to front. I've been thinking he was a little overrated back in LSU. I still, to this day, would defend Michael Penix should have won the Heisman before Jaden Daniels. I mean, the only bad game Penix had, you could argue, was probably Michigan, but that's the #1 defense in the country. That's just my thoughts on that. He definitely has the potential to be a good quarterback. And on top of that, no one talks about that. They got Cliff Kingsbury as our offensive coordinator. I'm not a fan of him as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, we see what he has done with a lot of quarterbacks in college and in the NFL. So I see some promise in that. New ownership, too, so we know it's going to be a whole new trajectory for this team. But I think they definitely need to work on this defense. This defense has been losing people. I think Jonathan Allen wants to leave. I would get rid of his ass too. I mean, it's that might be the biggest problem is their defense, because they had Riverboat Ron last year, who's a defensive guy. They had Jack Del Rio and they as a defensive coordinator, and look how that turned out. Complete shit. This is only up from here with Dan Quinn. And you hope him being familiar with the division, maybe it helps out a little bit. But I see a lot of definitely a lot of like growing pains, especially when you're dealing with a rookie quarterback. So I'm going to say under 6.5, but it's not bad because I think they're going to be promising in the future if Jaden Daniels has any type of potential. It's more the defense for me right now is why I'm kind of iffy on that team. Now the New York Jets, the next team, we already talked about the props with them. I'm going over the 6.5 because I've been saying how much of a genius Daboll is on offense. He can find ways to win games. It's just really all on Danny Dimes, right? And them not having a running back, or they got Devin Singletary, which he's not. He's a productive running back, but he's not the same productive as Saquon Barkley because Barkley did it all when he could. But the receiver core has gotten better now. You got Neighbors who, if you look at the Rookie of the Year campaign list, he's like top 3 consideration. So it is a little bit of hype with him. I mean, they still got Jalen Hyatt from last year. I mean, I think the receiving core definitely was like the biggest weakness on the offensive end. Now we know what Daboll can do. He's going to create some creativity with them. But the one thing is the defense. The defense, however, has improved drastically. And I think that's something that you have to look into. Kayvon Thibodeau is looking like he was the guy that could have been the #1 overall pick. He's looking pretty good. The secondary got better. I just think they need to stop playing man-to-man, though. They may need to have to work some zone into that because when they were getting torched, it's because they were running that man-to-man, and you kind of bound to set up the failure depending on if you ain't got the personnel for that. The linebacker core has been good, but it's really the D-line with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. With those guys there, those two, I think that can cause some havoc. And, when you got a good trenches as far as the offensive line or defensive line, that can go so far. Like, it can go so far for you. Now, the also concern with them is going to be offensive line. We've seen how bad why do you think Danny Dimes got hurt? I mean, he's getting sacked left and right, bro. You know, you have Evan Neal who's trying to support it, but like, bro, you've been looking like a bust as of lately. It's crazy. So him and Iggy Aquano was the two top tier linemen in their classes, and it's starting to look bad for both of them. I think Aquano may have a second shot now that they got new coach in Carolina, but I still see a 7-10 team. I might don't be surprised. It might be an 8-9 team because Daboll is going to pull a rabbit out of his hat because that's just what Daboll has been doing. So if they win, if they go over 6.5, it's definitely because of Daboll alone with his coaching. Now let's go ahead and go with the Philadelphia Eagles and Cowboys. Both of them 10.5, right? But the Eagles is plus 115, so they're the favorites to win the division. And 10.5, I would lean over, but I think it's 11-6. So I think you're like just there. And I think a win or two in the division and beating the Cowboys at least once will save you. If you sweep them, that will even be more better. But the concerns I have with the Eagles, yes, they upgraded their corners, their secondary spot with 2 new corners, and I like the picks. However, they are rookies. So you're pretty much still relying on Darius Slay, who I like Darius Slay, but the guy is getting up there in age. I'm one of those guys where I know like maybe he needed to look at the Charles Woodson route, right? Charles Woodson was a great corner for all those years, but eventually he had to move to safety. And when he moved to safety, it helped out so much more because you also had a younger talent playing, the corner spots who can, check with some of the receivers. In my opinion, I do believe secondary is like the hardest position in football because all them cuts the receivers is doing, you pretty much reacting off them. And, you know, sometimes it's just take one certain cut and then you're getting burnt. We've seen how that goes. I like the acquisition with Saquon Barkley, but you also have to know there's an injury risk with him. That's why I'm glad they kept the running backs that they kept behind him because we know what Boston can do. We know what these other guys can do. Gainwell, we know what they can do outside of the number one running back. The offense is still going to be legit. It's just really on Jalen Hurts, right? It's on because he had a little bit of a passing slump as a passer last year. We know about the tush push. We know they're going to do that all the time. We know that's something that I think the NFL is not going to ban anytime soon. But I mean, I think Philly is optimistic, but it's the defense for me. If the defense is at least top 15 rated, I think they have a shot at. I mean, think they have a shot going to the Super Bowl because that first game in the playoffs against Tampa was just downright awful, right? So I'm optimistic on them. I do think off rip they will win the NFC East. Now let's go into the Cowgirls. Yeah, the Dallas Cowgirls. 10.5 is their prop, plus 130 to win the division. I got them going under 10.5. I got them going at 10-7. And I think them losing a game or two in the division will hurt them. And I think that's usually how that goes. That kind of makes it go under. And then they lose games that they're supposed to win throughout the season, right? I mean, they lose to the Cardinals last season, we remember. And I mean, who would have ever thought that team would have fucking lost, right? It's just that idea, man. They lose bonehead games every season, and to anybody who's out there that's of older age than me, why have they called this? Why is the Cowboys in the NFC East? Can somebody explain that to me? I never understood this. I thought the NFC South team would be realistic. Why are they in the East? If anybody knows, can you please comment and tell me why? Because I don't understand it. I don't. But it's really all on Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. It's really on those two guys. Dak Prescott with a contract year, and McCarthy. We kind of hear him in the hot seat. There's going to be other coaches around that once that spot. It's not like Belichick is not sitting back there chilling, in studio talking. It's just those situations, man, with the Cowboys. Like every year, and the one thing I don't like about Cowboys fans, every year they say it's their year, and then they show you why it's not your year, right? They go to the playoffs, they do what they're supposed to do. They win a division, right? Which is something that if you pay attention to the NFC East, it's never been a repeated winner. You can look this up. It hasn't been a repeated winner in years. So for them to win division, and then you go play against the Packers, who are young and an inexperienced team, and Jordan Love just blew you off the damn field at your home field, right? Granted, it is the Packers, so when you dealing with Packers fans in general, it's almost a neutral site game because they're going to be there too, right? But I didn't expect that blowout. We know Michael Parsons still going to hold his ground. He probably be the one to win Defensive Player of the Year. It's either him or TJ Watt. I don't think they'll give Myles Garrett a back-to-back year, but it's really on Dak, man. And as much as I want to like Dak Prescott, other than his rookie year, can y'all tell me when he had a good year? Because I haven't seen it. I've seen, above average, league average. He gets hurt that one year when he had a contract year and they gave him that contract money. I mean, it's almost like the same situation now, right? You're on a contract, this is your last year. We'll see. There's tons of options that can be out there if you do not product what you're supposed to do. I do think they make the playoffs though, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. You guys hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that. You already know. We'll go into the last division, the NFC North, next video.